Okay. Today I'm going to explain how Pennsylvania divides education funding and decision making between the state, county, local, and school districts, municipalities, and the federal government. My main argument is that Pennsylvania used a shared funding system, but that system is not completely equal or free from the disagreement. Different levels of government have different responsibilities, and there is an ongoing debate about who should provide more funding and how that funding should be distributed. Pennsylvania uses a shared funding model because education funding does not come just from one level of government. The state provides major funding and creates the rules that school districts have to follow. At the local level, school districts raise money through taxes, create their own budget as they create their own budget, and decide how to spend their available resources. Counties and municipalities also play a role, although their role is more indirect. They have influence in local tax systems and property tax environment that school districts depend on. The federal government also contributes through targeted education programs. However, federal funding is not the main source of funding for Pennsylvania public schools. I'm trying to see. Okay, so the easiest way to understand the PA system is that everyone has a piece of the responsibility, but everyone has a different job, and then like a different intensity of what they contribute to, and that's why it makes the system shared. The state government has the greatest policy role in Pennsylvania's system. Pennsylvania Constitution requires the state to provide for a thorough and effective system of public education. This means the state is not simply choosing to help schools, it has a constitutional responsibility to provide public education. The state also controls how major portions of education funding are distributed and establishes rules that school districts must follow. The amount of money involved shows how the significant the state's role is. In the 20 in the year 2026 to 2027 budget, it states that there was 565 million through tax equity, 1.5 billion special education, and 8.32 billion for educational basic funding. These numbers demonstrate that the state has significant financial power. The state provides the money, but it also sets the framework for how the money is used and distributed. Local school districts. Local school districts have limitations by state law. School districts are where much of the local decision making happens. They create their own budgets and decide how to use their available resources. For example, districts make decisions about teachers, programs, student services, technology, transportation, and other school operations. However, local control does not mean complete independence. The state places limitations on what school districts can do, especially when it comes to taxation. Laws such as, I think it is X1 or 2, um, limit certain school tax increases and establish procedures districts must follow if they want to exceed those limits. So basically, there is an important like balance in a way, that local school districts have control over a lot of the spending decisions, but the state controls the boundaries in which those decisions are made. um and this is just another reason why the relationship is shared rather than completely local or completely state controlled. um so I just listed four of the laws, um in depth about the law. So they make choices on how to utilize available sources. They create their own budget. They're responsible for service, staff, and programs, and more, which is like directly involvement with the education in the schools, local school tax as well. So the local school districts control spending, and the state of PA controls the boundaries, like to what extent that they can and can't do. Now we're going to go to the next slide, which is the county role. County roles are not responsible for school funding. So counties have a role in education funding, but it's not the over it's not I'm trying to see how can I say this, sorry. So counties have a role in education funding, but it is important, not over the state. So counties are not responsible for creating school budgets or running public schools. Those responsibilities belong like literally only for the school districts. However, counties influence education funding indirectly through property assessments and other local tax information. So, property values matter because they help determine the tax base available to the school districts. In simpler words, what happens with the property assessment can affect the amount of revenue a district can potentially raise. So the relationship is county property information affects the tax base. The tax base affects the local revenue, and the local revenue helps fund education. The county is part of the financial environment surrounding education, but is not controlled the school district. So the do's and the don't. Counties obtain educational funding through property taxes and local tax information and property assessments. The don'ts, they don't decide school budgets. They don't set school district tax rates. They don't hire or fire school staff, and they don't incorporate themselves with the academic standards. So starts off as the county, then it goes to the property information, the school district tax base, and then the education funding. Next, we have the municipal roles, which is separate tax entities. So municipal government include places such as cities, boroughs, and townships. One of the most important things that I learned to understand is that the municipality and school districts are separate tax entities. So a homeowner could pay municipality taxes to their city, borough, or township while also paying separate taxes to their school district. So this matters because it wouldn't be true to say that municipalities fund the schools out of their general budgets, because they don't. The school district has its own taxing authority and its own budgeting. So when we talk about local responsibilities for educational funding, the school district is the most important local government, not the municipality. And municipalities are still part of the larger local government and tax system, but their role in education funding is more indirect. So homeowners are responsible for the municipality taxes and the school district taxes. So the residents or the property owner pays municipality taxes and also school district taxes. Federal government. The federal government does play a role, but its role is different from the state and local government. Federal funding is generally targeted towards specific programs and population. Two major examples are the Title I, which supports schools serving students from low-income families, and IDEA, which supports special education because federal money comes with specific requirements. school must follow federal rules to receive and use those funds. So if they don't follow the standard of the federal government, they will not be getting those grants, those fundings. Federal funding does not replace Pennsylvania state and local funding, so they're not the same. And the easiest way that I learned to think about it, is the three levels, is that the federal government provides targeted support, the state provides major funding and policy, and local school district provides local revenue and operate the schools. The federal government is important, but it is not the main driver of the Pennsylvania system. Pennsylvania education funding system. Excuse me. Why is this contested? In Pennsylvania, education funding system become contested. The problem is that not every school district has the same ability to raise money locally. Some districts have more and stronger support while others don't have much support. That can lead to difference in educational opportunities. For example, districts with fewer resources may have difficulties keeping technologies up to date, offering advanced classes, maintaining programs. Teachers are not getting paid what they are deserved, or they're getting paid at a lower rate. And this is what creates a call for an opportunity gap. The larger issue is not simply whether schools receive funding. The question is whether students across Pennsylvania have access to a reasonable, equal education opportunities. Sorry, my light went out. And this becomes a major issue in all urban cities and low income areas. And then after looking at all of these level of government, I would classify PA education funding system as shared but not equal. Because they all work together, but they're just not all on the same tier. And this is pretty much my final argument. And my conclusion is that Pennsylvania has shared funding system with a contested funding model. The goal is not just to fund schools, but to make sure that where a student lives does not determine the quality of education they receive. And here are the sources that were used to fulfill this project. Thank you for watching.